Hello. Okay, so I'm going to be going over some basic chords that are going to be handy for you for jazz combo as well as other things in your musical life in the future. What we're going to talk about in this video is a simple three-note voicing, basically a chord structure you can play on guitar that really does apply to a lot of things that you do on guitar. A lot of times we think of these big bar chords. And a lot of times they're too much. Even in rock music, you'll find that you don't even play all 6 strings at a time. You actually play a lot less than that. And in jazz, that's even it's important because there's so much going on already that if you play too many notes, it gets pretty muddy and messy as you go on. So another thing too is that as you get better and you start to add extra notes like the fancy chords, like the flat 13s and the sharp 11s and stuff like that. You need to start with something smaller so that you have room to breathe, room to grow on. And on the guitar, because we only have 6 strings and only 4 fingers that maybe sometimes your thumb on the root, you really have to kind of pick and choose what you have. So starting with something simple is really important. You can't get more complicated unless you start off with simple. And you shouldn't get more complicated unless it calls for complication. So let's take a look at these chord structures that I have up on the Google Classroom. Basically, we have 3 chords, 3 chords, not 3, 3 chords, but we could play them on the E string, meaning that the root or the name of the chord starts on the E string, or the A string. So 3 types of chords times 2 starting points would be 6 variations, or 6 types. We're going to start with the top row there. So a major 7 chord, a 7th chord, and a minor 7 chord, but actually will apply to minor 7 flat 5, as we'll see in a little bit here. If we don't know what those mean, major 7, dominant 7, or just 7th, dominant 7th and 7th are the same thing, but when you're reading a chord chart, it's only going to say 7th, it won't say dominant. And minor 7, if you don't know what those mean, that's fine. For now, I really don't like teaching this way where I'm just asking you to learn a bunch of arbitrary information, but I'm just trying to get things going a little bit as you're playing. So we're starting off with major 7 chord, which is the top left of the diagram you're looking at right there. And essentially, you can play this anywhere. And we'll do it on the 5th fret just for, I don't know, whatever reason. So the 5th fret's right here. That happens to be an A. The 5th fret of the E string is an A. And I'm going to play those 2 notes on top. Now notice that I'm skipping the A string. Now, that causes a little bit of an issue, but more than likely, naturally, if you're a picker and you're strumming, then you're probably already muting the A string with your first finger, which means you can strum those 4 strings. And in fact, when I do this, my pinky's even muting the B string, and my hand may even be slightly muting the E string, but I'm just going to strum the top 4 strings. If I slow that down, you'll hear this. Muted. Or you can finger pick it and just put your thumb on the E string, your first finger on the D string, and your middle on the G. Or you could do a hybrid sometimes in the future where you pluck the lowest note with your pick, and then use your middle and ring to pluck, which is something I've been doing for a long time, but it can be a little awkward at first. Usually you have to get good at strumming, good at picking, good at finger picking, and then eventually you can combine those 2. So that's a major 7 chord, in this case an A major 7 chord. Now the next one over would be a 7 chord, and I'm just going to lower the D string down a fret. Now in terms of fingering, you can do these a lot of different ways. It depends on what feels comfortable and what comes before and after the chord. Learn how to kind of change your fingers up depending on what's happening in the song. But A major 7, A7, and for the minor 7 chord or the minor 7 flat 5, doesn't really matter. 5, 5, 5, 5th fret, 5th fret, 5th fret, as you can see right there. And the reason that doesn't matter if it's a minor 7 or a minor 7 flat 5 chord is that we're not playing the 5th note of the A scale in this chord. Again, it may be above your theory knowledge, but it just, if you want to remember anything, if you see a minor 7 flat 5 chord, don't worry about it. If you're using these voicings, it's the same thing as a minor chord for now. Okay? All right, so one more time. Major 7, 7, minor 7. Okay? So now let's take a look at Blues for Alice. So Blues for Alice, we're just going to use the top line of this song as an example for now. We have F major 7, E minor 7. Here it's E minor 7 flat 5, but again, don't worry about that flat 5 because we're not playing any 5s. A7, D minor 7, G7, C minor 7, F7. Notice that it starts with F major 7 but ends up on F7. We'll learn the difference between these two chords and what it actually means in the future. But as you know right now, that's two different chords, depending on the diagrams we looked at. So, first thing we need to know is where these notes lie on the E string, where F, E, A, D, G, C, and F are. So, if there's any two strings that you want to know your notes on, it's the low E string and the A string. Everything else is just, all the other strings, most of the time, is just in relation to those. So, if I'm playing a gun going back to the 5th fret, that's an A. I don't need to necessarily know that this is a G sharp and a C sharp. I just know that this is an A with a major 7 tonality on top of it. And visually on the guitar, that's fine. Okay, so F is here. E is here. And you might have to figure this out on your own. It's best that you do, so you start to learn how to figure out the notes on this. A, D, G, C, F. And if you can't do that, we could talk about that separately and how to learn the note names on the E string. Now I have that F, I apply the major 7 shape. Go up to E, apply the minor 7 shape. Go to A, apply the 7th chord shape. D, minor 7, G, 7, C, minor 7, F7. Here it is all together. Here it is with rhythm. 4 beats for any chord that takes up the whole measure. 2 beats for any measure that, or any chords that only take up half a measure. I forgot where I was. Here it is with a little bit of rhythmic variation. Here it is with a bass line applied to it. Ooh, that was horrible. Let me try it again. Here we go. Sorry, that was horrible. All right, so let's go back to our chord diagrams now and look at the A string. And these are important because it gives you a variation. But as you'll see, I was struggling moving around there, and there's a reason. I really wanted to do something different. It wasn't so much that I couldn't, it's just my instincts are to do something different, which we'll see in a minute here. All right, so let's do the 5th fret again, except for on these 3 chords, we're starting the chord on the A string. I'm going to use my 2nd finger on this one because I need a finger below it on the 4th fret, and then I could put either my ring finger or my pinky on the 6th fret. And notice I'm not skipping any strings here. I'm just doing the A, D, and G strings. And there's our major 7 chord. Lower the G string for our 7th, and lower the D string for the minor 7, or minor flat 5. This one's a bit of a stretch. If you want to, you can use your ring finger on the root, then your 1st finger and your pinky. Okay, so major 7, 7, minor 7. Go back to here, and now we find our notes. So F is here, E is here, A is here, D is here, G is here, C is here, F is here. So F major 7, E minor 7, A7, D minor 7, G7, C minor 7, F7. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry. Okay. Now, mixing them up. Notice I'm moving up and down, up and down, up and down, right? Well, here's the A string, F major 7, A string, E minor 7, but I'm going to go to the E string, A7. Notice they're right next to each other. Back to the A string for the D, back to the E string for the G. I'm going to slide up to C on the E string, to the A string version on the F7, and so forth, okay? So now I feel a little more comfortable. here's what's possible with maybe a bass line. Right. We don't need all that stuff for jazz combo though, because we have a bass player. So just. And then eventually, actually, you'll use these chord shapes for. You can use them for improvising as well. All right, so 6 chord shapes. Really kind of 2 chord shapes that are being manipulated, one on the E string, one on the A string. And once you get to know the fretboard a little bit more, you'll actually realize that these 6 chords are actually all 1 chord shape. So that's it for now. Moral of the story here is learn those 6 shapes, learn your notes on the E and A string to the best of your ability, and apply them to the songs or a song that we're learning in Jazz Combo, and you'll be doing just fine. All right? All right, let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you soon.